Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today, I want to kind of do something a little bit different. I want to give you a personalized journey into Baneful Sorcery. And what is Baneful Sorcery for those of you who are new to this? I'm talking things for personal gain. I'm talking curses, hexes, jinxes. I'm talking rituals and rites that open doorways just for you. Okay. And I'm going to come at this from the last 11 to 12 years. Oh, hell, let's just go with 13. Because let's face it, that's really when my world started changing. At least for me, anyways, after like 20 years. So, where to begin? Well, let's just say that up until this point, I was staying in seclusion. I was studying from masters. I was studying from my teachers and all this stuff. But I've also had, like I said in the past, I've had a few libraries over the years of just books. And I was self-taught most of the way. I was literally taught most of the way. But I've had teachers who have guided me into areas that were unique. Okay. And I guess my world started when back in I want to say '08, 2008, 2009 area. And I ended up going to Sabbats, Equinoxes. There was a few groups around town that actually did do this stuff where I was living at the time. And I ended up starting hanging around with some neo-pagans. And these neo-pagans turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. They were drama queens, they were liars, the type of people that were two-faced. They on one hand they would welcome you with open arms. I'm talking right in your face. Hey, you are one of our loyal friends, trustworthy, yada yada yada. But then in the next sentence, you turn around and realize they're bad mouthing you behind your back. They're talking smack about you. You know these these types. I realized. Unfortunately, I didn't realize this right up front. It took a few years, but these individuals literally were my breaking point. They were my breaking point, and after living with them in Texas, they were that was the last time I had anything to do with them. The last time I went down south to live. And it was interesting because of the fact that, like I said, this took about 4 or 5 years. Just 4 or 5 years area of just this type of go around. And I ended up seeking other, how should I say this? I started seeking out other means of spiritualism. I didn't know what I was seeking at the time. I really didn't. But it wasn't until I ended up down in Tucson, South Tucson, after journeying a long, long time, that I look back today, and that was really the beginning of my ascension. That was the beginning of my journey into baneful magic. It was really my journey into spiritualism in general. it was a portion of my life where I wanted to get away from all that dogma, that stupidity, all that drama, and leave it behind. I wanted to be around people that were diehard practitioners. I'm talking people who wanted to learn and evolve. Okay, these were the types I wanted to go for, and I started delving back into the works. I started hell, I even went into the JCI, and, about 4 different churches to be precise. I started hanging around, Jehovah Witnesses. I did a 6-month Bible course with them to the point where, when I know more about it than they do, that's just plain sad. But it was more of a, what they refer to as a, meetup type thing. It was me. Anyways, but then I ended up going to what is known as the Mansion Ministry, and I met a guy. He was a gay guy there, and it was kind of funny because of the fact that, knowing the Bible like I do, you know, this is not okay within their community. They basically would shun you, burn you at the stake, slaughter your ass. So, but yet you had a gay guy, and I'm still friends with this guy even today. Just to let you know, he's a good guy. We don't talk religion or anything. It's just, still, we're just those type of guys that just meet up. Hey, how you been? And it's like, yeah, I'm doing all right. How about yourself? The bullshit type of stuff. And from there, I ended up getting invited to an apostolic church. No, no, actually, it wasn't an apostolic church. It was a Pentecostal church because I went to this Pentecostal church and I met a woman that intrigued me, and it turned out that she was a liar and a betrayer and a backstabber as well. And it was just like, I see this coming back into play, and it's like, no, 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 not gonna happen. So I ended up going down to VV, Indiana. I started living in VV, Indiana for like 3 weeks, and then she and I went down to South Tucson again. And this is where we actually got an apartment. We started building a life, and then I find out that she lied about being pregnant. She lied about being with child, and this really was the end for me. This is where my world came to an end right there. It was like I had just given up on humanity. Here, I spent 14 days with no food, no water, no sleep. And I look back today, and that was literally a trial. That was the beginning of a trial for me. I ended up waking up in a place called Keno. I mean, if you think about any kind of hospital, that's basically what it was. Because apparently, I passed out or collapsed or from exhaustion and ended up being there. And I ended up spending a day there, and I ended up meeting a practitioner of Pedro Mayumbi. His wife was actually into Santeria. So I ended up getting, when I got out, I ended up going back. She had the girl I'd been living with. She had gotten up and she just left. I have never seen her. I didn't see her again for like a couple of years. And during this time, I became close with these two, and they ended up initiating me into Palo Mayumbi and Santeria. And it was interesting because of the fact that I began to understand the nature of baneful sorcery. And they actually let me sit around for at least a week or two just to contemplate on what and what my life wanted to be like. what did I want to do with my life? And I never really thought about it fully until I ended up in the Apostolic Church when I came to Maine. And it was interesting because of the fact that when I look back today, these two, this couple literally asked the same exact questions that this apostolic did back in 2013. It was March 7th, 2013, when I had moved to Maine. I had already put down roots. I got an apartment. I got the apartment. I had my familiar with me. I erected my altar in a chamber, and I started doing what I do best. I started collecting, for a second library. But this man asked me, what do you want to do with your life? We were all sitting around in this trailer, one of those types that you haul behind a vehicle. And I didn't have an answer. Everybody else just shot out an answer, and I'm basically the only one who literally just said, I don't know. I did not know. I told him, we sat down, all of us, all the brothers, we just sat there, and he was asking me these questions and I answered him. It's like I've studied so many systems and practiced so many systems for 20 years. A little over 20 years now. But I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And he looked right at me and he said, have you ever thought about becoming a minister? And I said, why? Who is basically considered to be a multi-faith minister. And I said, okay, why would somebody like me get into that? It's still a part of the JCI. So, anyways, to make the story short, he made his point. With all my knowledge, with all my experience, the experiences that I've gained over the years from traveling, from associating with many different cultures, different types of practices. I could teach and share so much, but I had become bored. I had become laxed and fed up with the community by this point. So I ended up going to school. I ended up graduating in like 4 months because I had dedicated all my time. Well, not 4 months, more like what, 6 months, about 5 to 6 months, because within a year's course, underneath this man's tutelage, his guidance. He taught me about psychology. He taught me about ministering. He taught me about how to represent what you do and to put forth a brand. He even taught me a little bit about the laws of the land, and the rest I had to figure out. So I ended up coming back as an ordained minister, literally an ordained minister. And I ended up spending a couple of times, a couple of weeks just sitting there wondering, what do I want my brand to be? What image do I want to put forth? So I ended up going into my ritual room. I've already had two spiritual encounters in my life, one at age 5 and one when I was 11. The third time was when I was in Tucson. Tucson was the eye opener for me. I was standing in the middle of the street just cursing everybody. It did not matter who it was. I didn't care if it was the demons. I didn't care, if it was the angels, the jinn. It was like up until that point, I could not get my shit together. I just couldn't get it together. Nothing worked, and I was fed up. So it wasn't until, like I said, I'm living here in Maine. This is 2013. I'm an ordained minister now. I've been doing live videos since about '09, about was it '08, '09 area. Just these short little blips right here on YouTube. Even updated them to Facebook as well. I just talked about a lot of different topics, but I didn't stop to think about what my brand was going to be. What was my image going to be? So I went into my altar room. I petitioned Lucifer and any other demonic entity that wanted to come out forth and just kind of aid me in this. This was literally the first time I had literally gotten down, not just on my knees, but in the circle and really opened myself up to spiritualism. I guess you could say up until this point, I was more atheistic in nature, you know, maybe even agnostic. I was on that verge, that cusp of going from one to the other, and it was personal evolution at this stage. This is where personalized evolution was really taking hold of me. I was stepping up and I was growing, maturing in the arts. And I remember sitting there and I heard this voice right behind my left ear, and it said, "Bleed on the altar." Of course, I look. Dumbass moment there, right? But yeah, I looked. That was a surprise to me. And it was interesting because at this stage, I didn't know what to think. So I did. I bled on the altar. I did what was told to me. And a while down the road, it just, I had this vision. It was a circle. In this case, it was on the floor. You were kind of looking down at it. It had vines wrapped around it and flames shooting up from it. And I knew it was going to be the Order of the Black Thorn. The Order of the Black Thorn. Now I had an image. I had a name, but what was it going to be? And I started thinking back about this apostolic minister, and I started thinking about the other two down in South Tucson, and I remember seeing the man. I remember the man that I used to help out, with his little taco truck. I'd wash the tables and do the dishes, and you know, when I was living on the streets down there, and it was interesting because I started understanding. I'm an educator. Why not put forth education? So I created the Order of the Black Thorn on Facebook, and it's literally spilled over to to right here on YouTube. It spilled over recently into Timber. I used to have an account on Instagram too, but I don't remember the freaking password to them. It's like I don't remember, and I never get on it anyways. So it's like, what's the point of having it? You know. So I ended up creating the Order of the Blackthorn, and I started teaching. I started putting forth lessons, and people ate it up, but nobody was really doing their homework or doing the same. And then I ended up getting into around 2017, about 2016, 2018. I was conferring with a guy, somebody I don't associate with anymore. And it was interesting because of the fact that I found out who my creator was during the super black moon of 2017. And I started remembering what he had said and some of our conversations the months leading up to this point. The practices that I was doing as well through rituals and rites were never the same. They were constantly growing and shrinking. For an example, blood ink, you know, the mixture was changing. Working with blood sorcery, doing the history of that, doing the history of the arts, and delving into herbalism, learning the example lemons or like mint, even garlic, for an example. Things that are grown from the earth, and it's that's one thing. But when you get into baneful magic and you get into actual curses and hexes, and you start making the powders, you start learning different methods to curse people. I remember the very first curse after this point that I did. It was second individual that I took underneath my wing as my adoptive daughter, and she was living out, in I want to say it was South Dakota. Yeah, it was South Dakota actually, and it was interesting because it was this one day. I'd been working at this job, you know, for a while, and I hadn't had a vacation. I had knots on top of knots. I was stressed the fuck out. And all of a sudden, she decides to drag me into an argument with this guy, just out of the fucking blue. And like I said, up until this point, I've been researching curses. I've been researching, the mechanics behind curses and hexes and the different things. So I ended up writing this one curse that I had found online, and you can find it in PDFs all over, basically across Facebook and social media now. But at the time, you could only get it through Google or Scribd. So it was kind of interesting because I didn't give a shit. I just replied with this curse called the Lucifer's Touch, and the guy. I remember the guy said, "Oh, great, now I'm cursed." And I never really thought about it since. I never thought about this guy since that point. But the following day, this girl, she came to me and she was panicking. She was upset because the guy had been found dead. Okay, he had died overnight. And I'm thinking to myself about that curse. What was I feeling? And I realized, you know, it's your thought form. I was in such a dark place the night before. I was angry, I was frustrated, and I was looking for a fight, and she gave me that fight. you know? But in this form, it was a written curse. So basically, what I had done through my anger and rage is I had lashed out at this guy. Okay. I had just put all my anger and my rage towards that guy through that curse. And I didn't realize it until, about a day or two after. So while I was contemplating on this, and she had come to me, she's frantic, she's upset, she's, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested. It's like, no, you're not going to get arrested. There is no witchcraft laws anymore. In fact, the laws that remain in this country alone protect the rights and the practices of the individual. There's no evidence left behind. And she's like, oh, okay. And just went on her way. And it was a few months later that I actually, we ended up going our separate ways. But as well, she started dating some jack off that didn't treat her right. And, like I said, she went her own way. But right up until this point, I started doing this. And like I said, around 2017, when we had those those 5 moons, those super moons of 5 various colors. This guy and I were talking about it, and he says, "Why don't you petition the spirits and open yourself up and ask, who is my creator?" And so I did, and I found out it was Abaddon. So Abaddon, the destroyer, Apollyon, the place, you know, kind of like Jahannam, hell. But it was interesting because I'm now looking back at my journey since that point, between 2009 and today. Not only has the Order of the Black Thorn become an educational institution, but its upheld values are to back up what you preach and to make yourself available to the public. Actual knowledge is being put forth through PDFs and actual personalized experiences and videos. Some of my videos I put on YouTube, and I've done curses using grisgris bags, mojo bags, and effigies such as photos and with black candles, rusty nails, um, powders such as brimstone or gopher dust, using snake skin, venomous snake skin and such. And it's like, wow, I've done all this stuff over the last 5 to 10 years. I can literally go into my grimoires, my journals, and I look at just the methodology behind each type of curse that I've done. And I really haven't cursed that many people over the years. And that's the surprising part. So I mean, here I am nowadays. You take a jar, like a regular canning jar, for an example. You have the effigy within your circle of empowerment, or the triangle of evocation, the alchemical symbol for transmortification. You look at it and you're pouring your intent into it, you're spitting at it, you're cursing it, you're verbally defaming it, you're you're marking it with your own blood, you know, you're poking the eyes and the mouth out, of the individual's face with the 3 nails. You're basically putting the link together with the effigy, because the effigy is from the personal information of that person, and you take that canning jar and you put chicken feet in it, you put paprika in it, you put you urinate in it, something that has some form of acidic acid in it. They will break down the effigy over time. You're like I said, you're mixing in bones, masculine, feminine, or what is classified as the infant bones within it. You're adding in metals and stuff. And when you're doing this, you've also got the ash. Now you're using ashes to formulate the intent, the malintent upon this individual. Seeing how it goes from verbal into actual herbalism, the transformation of your rites and rituals. This is stuff that's taken place in just 10 years. If I have talked about the 32 years worth of practices of this, using, say, for an example, the destruction rite from the Satanic Bible, and just to name one, because that was actually my first book on Baneful Sorcery, demonolatry and all that. And I think just about everybody that gets into black magic and sorcery, such as Satanism, demonolatry, this is one of the first books you get into. Not just the Necromyicon. You want to go darker and more baneful. And it's just in 10 years, though, out of the entire 32 years I've been a practitioner, seeing how much my own practices have changed in this case. You don't I don't put curses on people for shits and giggles. I save my curses for those who truly deserve them. But if I'm paid by a client to curse somebody, that's a whole nother thing, because that's a business transaction. And there's so many different systems out there that have different effigies, different techniques. I mean, you take voodoo doll for an example, and I said this in my last video, is you take a voodoo doll and you link it to the individual, you put it in a coffin, you consecrate that coffin with the malintent, the maliciousness of it, and you take it to a graveyard and you bury it. Okay, after you've called on the Loa. But you can also call on demons such as Alistar, Samael, Sabnuk, Ariok, you know, Asmodeus, even. And like I said, this is just to name a few. You get into European traditions and you got runes, you've got seals, you go into Egyptian and Giza, formulations of ancient Egypt, and you have hieroglyphics. But those seals, those tablets, and those totems are there. You're making totems such as dark totems for storing energy, spiritual work. You have amulets for protection. You have talismans for protection. You have, or, jewelry that literally link you to that spiritual path. Sandalwood, for an example, is necromantic in nature, kind of like the necromancer's jade. You know, Jade comes in many forms, different colors, but still, it's linked to necromancy. It's linked to death magic. You go throughout history, and you got medical applications. You have spiritual work with spirits and the like, and it's just to see the grimoires of is mind blowing. That's all I got to say. It's mind blowing just to see how far you've improved your own rites and rituals over time. And it goes to show you that the more you grow, the more you learn, your altars and your tools are going to shrink and grow as you do. So to see that just in my own practices, like over the last few days, I've been doing necromantic rites using a scrying mirror, peering into utilizing of shadowmancy and blood sorcery, necromantic rites, and seeing just starting off with just with the scrying mirror alone. And like I said, that's going to be a 3 week thing that I'm doing, and then I'm going to move on to pyromancy and different other forms of old school divination and practices. But I wanted to kind of come on here and kind of give you a personalized description. I wanted you to have the full description. And I was actually talking with a guy that's on Facebook. You know, he and I had how should I say this? We had a interview one day, and of course, last night I was sitting out here and I was listening to his latest, video, and I was just commenting on it, and it was kind of funny because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and of course, from his point of view, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So I mean, it was kind of funny because in this state, I'm going to bring his name up here in just a sec here. As soon as I'm also in a location where the internet's not so good, so I had to wait for my phone to go. Oh, okay. There's other, you know, stuff here. Let me see if I can't go over here. Yeah, there's a lot of people posting here. Maybe not. All right, here we go. It's going down. So, anyways, so this guy, he's doing his video, and of course, we were talking about Baneful Sorcery and everything, and he's doing his own video. Joan Goma, the Shadow Zone, with the number 3, and he, like I said, we were just talking about that last night, and it was like, God damn, this got me thinking, y'all. I mean, literally, I mean, it's like I'm sitting here thinking as he's talking, it's like, yep. And then I had that interview with, last one on Thursday afternoon. That was like 2.5 hours, and we're talking Baneful Sorcery there, and it's like, yep, this is a theme. Something's coming across, from a spiritual perception, and it's like, yep, I've got to reflect on this. So I've been actually thinking about Baneful Sorcery and a lot lately, and something tells me that there's something there for me to see and to learn. But when I went back into my old grimoires, like I said, and it was like, God damn, talk about huge involvements, huge changes. I can't imagine, just thinking just right now, how many hours and days I put forth over the last decade alone, just studying powders, herbalism, alchemy, and the different forms of cursing, hexing, and jinxes. There was a post on Facebook that said, if you could be one of the any Mancy, what would it be? And it's like, I'd have to go with, yeah, if I made one up, it would probably be hexamancy, you know, because baneful sorcery is basically my speciality, and it's like, if I curse you, you're dead. That's it. I don't fuck around with that shit, man. But yeah, it's there though. It's like, God damn, my mind is still blown, and I just was looking at my grimoires, and it was like, I wrote my own. I've written down some others that I have found. I've watched videos over the years on people who have done curses and black magic, sorcery for either personal gain or to rid themselves of an obstacle in their life. And it's like, I've done this stuff, and it's like, damn, you know? It's just one of those things, it's like your mind is just blown. I couldn't believe it. I have literally at least 6 to 8 notebooks full of notes, full of everything that I've studied over the last 10 years. Just watered down like a one of those, what do you call those things when you go into a library? It's got all the cards and stuff. You know what I mean. Those of you who have been in a public library, you know what I mean. Oh, the codex. That's what the word I'm trying to think of. The codex. You gotta have a codex for this stuff, and especially with your record keeping, because it's something that is just, you know. I look back at the last year, just this year alone. I've gotten back into performing talisman makings. I started making talismans. I started making um, amulets again, and I started mixing them in with my blood and my ash and the ashes of packs and everything. I started, delving back into baneful sorcery, and hell, I even one of the books, some of the books that I got under were from hoodooism and just black magicians in general. Hell, I even went to the complete book of the complete works by E.A. Quetting and Balg, and I ended up watching a video just 2 nights ago, and it was by J.S. Garrett and E.A. Quetting, and they were talking about how it came to be that they had written, that this baneful magic book ended up, tome ended up getting made, and it was like JS was just going by. He read it in a single night, is what he put, and he says I've read it several times after that, and it's like, damn, and I haven't even got to this book yet. I haven't even got to it yet. I'm still on like the second book in that entire complete works. You know, I've read the entire thing forth, but I never really took the time to step back and kind of contemplate each section. So that's what I've been doing in this, and it's like now I'm watching this video with you guys talking about it. Now I've got to actually skip ahead and go to this book and read the damn thing just to take notes and apply it to my own rites and rituals and kind of my own sorcery and see how it applies there. You know what I'm saying? This is what happens. Welcome to black magic. Welcome to baneful sorcery, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, it's you get these confirmations when something's in the air and it's time to do it, but you're dragging your fucking feet. It's the universe has a way of just constantly hounding you with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like baneful magic, cursing, cursing, cursing. I've had people come to me. Why are you letting this guy talk smack about you? Why are you not cursed his ass into damnation? Why have you not done this? Why have you not done that? And it's like, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Why is a good question. So, I mean, getting hit with anything from baneful sorcery type stuff just in the last 72 hours alone. Hell, let's go back an entire week and a half. Okay. I can't tell you how many people have come to me over black magic and sorcery. And I started thinking because one of the most recent curses that I did was on a guy that's over in Croatia. Okay. He basically, from what my client told me, was a man that did incest, molestation, and all that other crap. So she asked me if I would do a ritual for her, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do this one pro bono, just so you could actually get see firsthand what baneful sorcery can do." And I went in. I created a cursing jar with symbols and all that other stuff on it. I put all the ingredients in there, and every night for an entire week, I lit candles, black candles on either side of it, and I poured the candle wax all around the cover and on the cover, let it run down it. You know, I tipped it sideways so that I could seal it up, with the candle wax and everything, and I charged it with Baneful magic, for an entire week. And I found out that somebody, a cemetery near me was actually about to bury somebody. So you had a fresh grave already dug up. So it's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I took it and I put it in there. And it was interesting because the morning after I had done this right, my client came to me and told me the sky was white as a fucking ghost. It was like something had hit him so hard. You know, he was white as a fucking ghost. It was like the lead went out of his pencil. And it was so funny because she was impressed with how fast black magic was working. He literally stayed away from her. Okay. And it was work and it was she was like, I can't believe it's working. I can't believe it's working. It's literally working. And I said, wait until it's gonna seep in little by little over time. And so I went out and I did a small little video, and I removed the plank and I tossed it in. I just tossed it into the hole. It was already dug because the funeral was the following day. And it was funny because of the fact that a few weeks later, my client contacts me and she says, it's like the curse just stopped. And I said, oh, it will. Trust me on that. The way it's designed is it's going to take root. If that individual learns, then they're going to learn, and that curse is going to take that stay stagnant. But if that individual continues to do what he's been doing, it's going to fuck him up seriously. And it's taking things step by step, little by little, right out of this guy. So she was one happy client. I mean, she couldn't believe it. And I mean, I've done live videos with this client. I've talked to her and her husband. We may not understand each other. He and I may not understand each other due to the language barrier, but it's there. I mean, she translated between us, and it is so impressive to see what black magic does, what baneful sorcery does to somebody. You can put your ill intent behind words on a computer screen, which will cause somebody to think, oh my God, I've been cursed, and they're dead by morning. Or you do one of these things and it slowly, systematically destroys them. I mean, you look at jinxes and how it gives somebody bad luck to the point where it, you know, fucks up their world so much that they become a living curse, themselves. And it's like a living omen, like walking, like the old, wives' tales of walking underneath ladders or breaking that mirror. That's the image you get when you look at this type of stuff. And when you perform it, it's still hilarious to see. But at the same time, it's serious business. Same thing with a curse. A hex, rather. A hex is there to teach somebody a lesson. And if they don't link, it keeps taking hold. But if you link a hex with a curse, like, say, for example, a death curse, it's slowly dissecting their life. It is slowly destroying their world from the inside out. They're showing the world exactly who they are, what they are, and it's just incredible to see and to watch. Now, if I go back, say, 25 years ago, something like this would not have been possible for me. I was so wrapped up in my own shit, my own drama. I was wrapped up, with with what I thought magic was back then because I was taking shit at face value. But it wasn't until I stepped back and started doing the studying and the research and the experimentation for myself that you end up learning the scientific methodology behind everything and how it transgresses and how it works. And now that I'm reading Baneful Source, Baneful Magic by Ball, out of that one tome, and I was just reading that while I was having lunch. It was like, God damn! Now I'm thinking about this. I couldn't believe it. How I just so many instances I could just pull up right here, just right here. It's just from the things I've done, the things I've seen. I've watched my boss. My boss was had a heart attack, a triple bypass. I've watched as this store since he had his heart attack is not able to keep employees. My former employer, I put a grist. I cursed that store. It went from a $7 million store to a $7,000 store, and they spent months begging, scrounging through hard work, trying to keep employees, trying to keep customers happy. And the last time I went in there, my former team lead looked at me and said, "Please do not curse the store again. Do not curse this store again." And what's funny is the curse ended when the store manager left. Okay? It ended when that store manager just gave up and walked away. Justice had been served. Okay? Justice had been served. To the district manager of that store, guess what? I could still easily do that. I know her name. I know everything about her. I'm friends with quite a few of her friends. She just doesn't realize that because she's too stupid. But here's the kicker: injustice is made justice. Justice was served at that store. Now, with my current store, since my boss's heart attack, triple bypass, he's literally turned into a pussy. He's not out there on the floor all the time, but he will come out at times and kind of help out and see if anybody needs anything. But at the same time, you look at the injustice of what he's doing. He's in violation of the 1969 Civil Rights Act, titles VI and VII. Okay? You've got equal rights being violated. You've got all this stuff coming down, and he's not learning. So the store ended up getting cursed. They've already got ghosts there, and one of my apprentices, every time he walked through that store, it was like back when he worked there. It was certain locations. It was like, okay, there's a cold spot here. What the hell? And it's by a vent. Okay, I'm talking about a heater. Okay, or there's no vent, no windows, and it's just a cold spot. I've walked into the store and birds have literally just killed themselves, just smacked right into the fucking windows. I have a team lead that still's talking about that shit to this day, you know? And it's funny because they don't realize what happens when you perform black magic. What happens when you do baneful sorceries for either personal growth, personal agenda, or to just flat out curse the place to learn. You either learn or you die, plain and simple. And it was like a month ago. It was a few weeks back. I ended up doing a video and I talked about this. I ended up getting into it with my boss. The second time that I've done that in like 4 years. Okay. Hell, that I've been there. 4 years I've been there and I've never gotten into an argument with him outside of these two times. And it was interesting because this last time I went back out onto the floor and I did my job, and it was like 4:22 area in the afternoon. I finally messaged the ASM, and the assistant store manager. I said, "Consider this my 2 weeks. Just consider it my 2 weeks. I'm done. I've had enough." We've been working with 3 people doing about 70 cars an hour. I'm dealing with all this bullshit with you guys. I'm done. And 2 days later, the upper management, my boss's bosses stepped in, and it was funny because they looked at me and like, I had done this right like 2 years prior. And I said, the way I look back at it, and it's like, okay, I opened myself up in this company up to this particular demon. If it's not for me, I don't want it. I want to get rid of that drama. I want to get rid of all that stuff that is holding me back so that I can prosper in this company. Now, since then, when I did that, my boss had his heart attack. He had a triple bypass. And here we are 2 years later. And he's sitting there going, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because you're not going to be able to do this. And it's like, you let Wiccans and pagans in. Why not a dark sorcerer? You know what I'm saying? So the district manager and the owner come in and they sit down with me. This is 2 days later. Okay. And now they're putting me in a program to become a manager, to move up the ranks into team lead and above. So this is what black magic can do, and this is, you're clearly seeing the results from your own sorcery, your own magic that you're putting forth, the applications of it. So to see this happening and now literally contemplating and watching it happen, not just unfolding, but things that have already unfolded just in the last decade, so even the last couple of years, it's mind blowing. And ironically, most of this stuff is coming down while I'm performing rites with bones and necromantic rites, blood sorcery, and calling on these spirits, doing, spirit jars and working with talismans and everything. It's goddamn. All I gotta say is it's fucking magnificent and exciting at the same time. I can't speak for the rest of you, but that's just how I feel. That's just what I think about it. So, I mean, if you're interested in black magic and baneful sorcery, I would recommend that you delve into the history and the mythology of it. There's a lot of topics out there just from practitioners who practice this stuff. And a lot of the pure sense, that I've been doing comes from my own teacher, in necromancy. So think about that. It's up to you. But I wanted to put this video forth and kind of just say, hey, this is my personal experience with baneful sorcery. This is what I've learned and witnessed through my own, history. So with that said, I want to thank everybody that's here right now, those who will come on, and until next time, have a good day. Oh, wrong button.